Hi guys, meteorologist Lindsey Slater here. So you remember last night I posted something about the auroras and about the potential of us to have these auroras as we were going into Sunday night, going into Monday. Well, we actually did get some storms, these storms coming out of the sun. We had a really big CME that was on its way. I showed you guys this information like a few days ago. It did impact some of those little spacecrafts that give us data as to the direction it's going, the density, whether or not it's going to be hitting Earth and at what capacity. And the last 24 hours, we hit G4 level status out of 5, which is pretty high, which is some of the highest that we've had since October. So why didn't we see it? As you can see, there's that Aurora oval, which honestly, don't look at this with, rather look at this with a grain of salt. This is a really terrible model that tries to show the Aurora oval. It's never right. I just want to give you that right out of the gate. Feel free to ask a space weather expert. I guess I can consider myself one of those now after taking the certificate program. I also talk to a lot of other people who have been doing this a lot longer than me when we talk about it. We had a lot of different things ejecting out of the sun. We had filaments going off. We had flares. We had proton events, which basically like radiation storms were going on. There was a lot going on. And even the KP index, which is over here, which a lot of people use as a good gauge to figure out if auroras are coming. So what happened? Well, here's the thing. You want to know what it was? It was all about the smoke. We had smoke. So while we were technically clear last night, we couldn't see any auroras because of the smoke, which honestly sucked because it looked like it could have been a pretty show, a pretty show. I have a friend of mine who I was in class with, and she was in Michigan at the time. Look at that. Beautiful pinks, purples. This was a 8 to 10 exposure, so it was like 8 to 10 seconds, but really gorgeous, beautiful colors showcased there. Michigan got a lot of these auroras, guys. We sadly did not, and that's the reason why. We can blame the smoke. And so I do want to show you some of that smoke. This looks at a cross section of what the atmosphere, or not the atmosphere, what it looks like across the state from like Marquette, Green Lake County, all the way to Milwaukee toward the right-hand part of your screen right here. And yeah, we have the smoke in the upper levels. I don't see that coming down to the surface until potentially Tuesday evening when we get that cold front. You see the colors down toward the bottom of the screen. When it's all up here, this is how it is now. We have some pretty thick smoke above us, and that really inhibits temperatures as well, which is why I had to drop the high temperatures for the day, because we are just under this veil of very heavy smoke. It's not going anywhere until, honestly, it kind of looked like it'd be much later on this week. So that was the reason we didn't see any of those auroras. Now let's talk about the rest of the forecast. Oh, that smoke just killed me, and we are still under it. Here's a look at that same weather model I showed you just in our graphics, and you can see that smoke kind of moving on out, and then we get the cold front. It'll clear it up briefly and then likely come back a little bit based on the jet stream position. So this significantly impacts how high the temperature can get today. We're already at 60. We only hit 60 yesterday and 58 the day before. That's super below average. That's way below the forecast I expected, and that's because of the smoke. I mean, I expected 67 yesterday. I was 7 degrees off, and that was because of the smoke. That should have been a telltale sign to me that auroras might be tough. I just thought we'd have enough storming that we might be able to see something. Even the stuff in Michigan was really blurry because of the smoke. But regardless of that, you can really tell based on this graphic here that kind of highlights the opaqueness of the sky. So we're in the 60s. I think we'll end up in those mid 70s today, but it is going to be a hazy mid 70s. We do get some stickiness and some moisture returning to the area on Tuesday, and that's ahead of our next weather system, which is a cold front. This cold front's going to pass through as we go into, I would say, Tuesday between 5 and 10 p.m. There's a little bit of stuff going on ahead of time, but I think we stay dry during this time, and the main bulk of the activity is going to hold off until we get to, there's 5 o'clock just getting to our western counties, and by 8, 9 o'clock, it gets to Milwaukee. Mainly due to the timing, it falls apart. It's not the lake. Our winds are out of the southwest all day, so the lake does not have a huge influence here. What I am noticing is that the dynamics are really not there weather-wise, and I want to show you guys this, and I'm going to end with showcasing that here in a moment. I'll go back to those cool graphics. Yes, that's my background. So we look at the weather models. You guys know I kind of tend to favor the H trip a little bit, but it's a good one. At least I like the newest data coming in. And let's take a look here. I'm looking at, that's the 12Z, so that's the newest model. I need to go back a little bit so I can go forward. You have to go back to go forward, meaning an older weather model to get more data because all the data's not in yet. And you can see right here, it's about 3Z, so that's 9 p.m. That's really knocking on Milwaukee County's door at 9 p.m. Do you see how it kind of just like breaks up like this? If I go back, see how it's much more linear right here? And then it's like, okay, we're getting to sunset. We're losing some stuff. But here's the other thing. We don't have a lot of energy. This is energy. We only got, I don't know, 250 joules per kilogram. That's pretty low. Very, very low. What we do have is actually a little bit of helicity. We got a little bit of that going on right here. See? I'm not a big fan of seeing that on the tail end of thunderstorms. Basically, that spin in the upper levels of the atmosphere. So what I do think we have a potential of is heavy rain and also the potential of getting some isolated spin-ups. So there's my futurecast model that takes it out. I would say the main risks for Tuesday would be those spin-ups and also some heavy rain. I feel like this is more of a heavy rain event than anything. And the main risks, you can see, they stretch from Madison all the way. I mean, I got to take this down through Missouri, through Oklahoma, all the way into Texas. This is where you're going to have the much bigger impact is in the Central Plains and, portions of the Ozarks getting into Iowa. We're just right on the phalange of this potential. And that's because the time the front goes through. By the time the front gets to Milwaukee and all of our area, there's not much left for it to work with except that little bit of spin in the atmosphere, which can keep storms going a tiny bit longer. But it's going to be a little tough, I feel. That's why the Storm Prediction Center has us in a 1 out of 5 risk. With that being said, it's still a possibility. 1 to 2.5 inches of rain are possible. And then, like I mentioned, I think you could get some gusty winds as these storms collapse sometimes, maybe up to 60 miles an hour. The hail threat, I feel, is low because when you don't have a lot of energy, you're not creating these big updrafts. So I think the hail threat's going to be low. There's not even any elevated energy, so I can't even say these are going to be elevated storms. But the heavy rain potential is the highest threshold, and the tornadic threat, it is a low, but it's not a zero threat at this point. And we're getting really close to summertime, guys. We're 18 days away, but meteorological summer has already arrived as of yesterday. And today, 75 is not too bad. 80 on Tuesday, as long as that smoke isn't terrible. I think it breaks up enough to get us to 80. But then we go down, and I realize you guys can't see the rest of this because of my face in the way, but it's basically still the upper 60s and low 70s. Below average for this time of the year by the end of the week, absolutely. But, yep, that is what's going on. We could have seen those auroras last night, but the smoke inhibited it here in Wisconsin. It did happen in Michigan. I'll be sure to share some images later on today from those. We also do have haze that's still sticking around today and tomorrow, and we have storms tomorrow evening. That is your latest. Feel free to put a comment down below if you want to see something else specifically tied to this forecast. If you have questions about it, I am happy to answer.